I have that it is the top of the hour. It's 2 o'clock. Jamie, are you ready?
As soon as I hit unmute, I am ready.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Deanne Emery, and I'm the facilitator today of this ANAB complimentary webinar. Our presenter is Jamie St. Clair, and this webinar title is Promoting Trust, Property and Evidence Control Unit Accreditation. Please note that we are recording the webinar, and so it will be available for viewing on our website in the very near future, probably by tomorrow. So let's talk just a little bit about our logistics. All of our attendees will remain muted throughout the duration of the webinar. This is because we do have a very high attendance today. Please enter your questions in the Q&A box. We have planned time at the end of the webinar to answer your questions. So we will get to them as we go through the training today. So I want to tell you a little bit about our presenter today. Jamie St. Clair is a senior accreditation manager with ANAB's Forensic Business Unit. She has over 40 years of experience in environmental and forensic laboratories. Jamie was the director of the Columbus Police Crime Lab from 1992 to 2017. She has been active in accreditation since 1999 and has served as a lead assessor and instructor for ANAB since 2016. Jamie was involved in the development of the ANAB Property and Evidence Program and is a great technical resource for agencies and organizations seeking Property and Evidence Control Unit accreditation. So Jamie, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you. I'm going to turn my camera off for the duration.
Okay, thank you, Deanne. And I'm also going to turn my camera off at some point as well, just to save some bandwidth. But I do want to say a special thank you to all of you that are listening, and I appreciate your interest in this subject matter. But so today we're going to cover a few things. We're going to first start out with a short overview of best practices for managing property and evidence control units. Follow that up with how to obtain further training. And finally, we will discuss the benefits of accreditation and steps to gain and maintain accreditation. So if you are with an agency that's tasked with receiving, storing, transferring, and disposing of physical and or digital items that may or may not have evidentiary value, this presentation's for you. So the agencies who we commonly see handle property and evidence items include the government agencies such as police departments, sheriff's offices, jails, prosecutors, courts, medical examiners, and even some privately owned businesses. The items handled by these agencies include those submitted as property, such as items received for safekeeping, found items, or personal property, as might be collected by medical examiners or jails, and items handled as evidence. And these are known to have evidentiary value and may be waiting or may have already been tested by a forensic lab. And these will be used in court proceedings. They also may handle digital items such as recordings from dashboard or body cams and digital data from phones or computers. These also might be handled by these agencies. So why is this an important topic? Well, the public needs to trust that the organization tasked with controlling the property and evidence is protecting the integrity of the items they receive. So if an item of property is held for safekeeping, or if a found item is held by until claimed by the owner, the public expects that they will be returned to their owner in good condition. Proper control of evidence ensures that items are stored in a manner that protects their integrity and allows tests to be conducted by forensic labs and used in legal proceedings. So it's also important for the proper administration of justice. Evidence recovered at crime scenes may be needed in legal proceedings, even if no forensic testing is performed. So how is the public trust achieved? By having a property and evidence control unit that has a robust system in place to protect the integrity of the items in its trust. So let's talk a little bit about the elements of a system for properly managing and operating a high performing property and evidence control unit. First, the organization has to have a strong management. Management understands what is required to make the unit successful. They're responsible for setting and communicating expectations, goals, and objectives for the unit. We know that the property room staff members are trusted with confidential investigative information. And if this information were to leak, it could be damaging to an investigation. They also have access to items with monetary value, which can be targets for theft. Because of these risks, management must set policies for maintaining the confidentiality of information and for the professional integrity of personnel. Management of high functioning organizations recognize that there's other risks associated with handling property and evidence, such as the risk of losing or misplacing items, and they implement the controls needed to mitigate or eliminate those risks. And they recognize the importance of receiving, storing, transferring, and disposing of items, these tasks. So they need clearly written procedures for performing them in a consistent manner. So without argument, personnel are the heart of every organization, and hiring controls need to be in place to minimize the risk of hiring less than ideal persons to handle valuable property and evidence. Hiring can be through a civil service commission or other means, but they must include a criminal background investigation as well as checks of professional references and financial checks. So once personnel are on board, those formal training programs ensure that employees are provided with the knowledge and skills to perform their assigned duties. Those formal training programs ensure consistency of the training provided, that the same information is provided to all new hirees. And records of the training have to be maintained as well, as they document that training was provided and that the trainee demonstrated competence to perform the tasks. It's also, personnel are going to have different duties and different levels of authority gained through their training and experience. Job descriptions usually only describe the duties and authorizations after an individual is fully trained. A new hire is not going to be competent to do all the tasks on day one. So a new property custodian may only have authorization to receive items with oversight, for example, and then later, after demonstrating competence, they'll be authorized to perform the tasks independently. So the individual levels of authority need to be communicated to individuals in writing. And then over time, as an individual becomes comfortable in their position, they gain competency, but unfortunately, there could also be risks of shortcutting procedures or not knowing or following procedures or infrequently performed tasks. So monitoring personnel performance on an ongoing basis ensures that they are maintaining skills and continuing to meet the procedural expectations, or they may be used to identify areas of improvement. Procedures. Obviously, procedures are very important as they outline the expectations and ensure consistent performance of tasks. So they need to be clearly written and cover all the tasks that are performed by the property and evidence personnel. Obviously, they're going to cover those day-to-day tasks of receipt, storage, transfer, and disposal, but they also should cover those infrequently performed tasks. They should cover unexpected issues, such as what to do if a dangerous substance or item is presented at the submission window, or if there's flooding in the warehouse, and what to do if an item is lost or misplaced or stolen, not stolen, damaged is what word I'm looking for. So the procedures are the go-to reference for the staff, really, so that with the proper initial and maybe periodic refresher training, on the procedures, the property room sergeant doesn't have to be called at 2 o'clock in the morning when the freezer alarm is going off in the back. The staff know what to do. So the property and evidence control units are responsible for storing those high value items such as money, firearms, drugs, and those items, as well as the people tasked with their handling, need to be secure. So security is going to look different for different agencies and the different facilities that they control. For example, departments may have property rooms staffed and operational 24 hours a day, but they're also responsible for an impound lot in a remote location that's only staffed for 8 hours a day. So the security in place for those two locations are going to vary, as the impound lot's non-operational hours have to be considered as well. So how is the risk of theft mitigated at the impound lot during these non-operational hours? So a common way of securing facilities is by limiting and monitoring access during both the operational and non-operational hours. So this is generally done through those physical or electronic systems like keys, key cards, biometric controls, and with monitoring through camera systems or electronic records of entry. So the property control units are often responsible for a number of facilities with a number of storage locations even within each facility. And different levels of access may be appropriate for the different areas of the facility. For example, most property rooms will have a public area where the public can come in and retrieve personal items. A officer submission area, that is where only officers can get into, and warehouses where only property room personnel are permitted. And there may even be other storage locations within that within the facility where only a small number of individuals are authorized to access, such as vaults where money is stored. So to control access and control the risk of unauthorized access, you have to consider how those areas are controlled and monitored, as well as who authorizes access to the areas. So if key cards are used to control the area, has there been a check on the list of the personnel who are authorized to access those controlled areas to ensure that no unauthorized persons have been accidentally given access to those areas? We also know that heat, cold, humidity can be detrimental to items, so environmental conditions need to be controlled. Those conditions are going to vary depending on the part of the world you're in. So in Minnesota, frozen pipes might be a risk, where in Florida, heat and humidity are your risk. And if a agency handles digital items, the servers where digital evidence is stored put off a lot of heat. So special environmental controls may be needed for those facilities. And if additional equipment such as freezers or drying cabinets are needed to ensure the integrity of items, that equipment needs to be properly used and maintained. And the records of the specific environmental conditions needed, such as keeping a temperature log for a freezer, can demonstrate that an item of evidence destined for forensic testing was maintained under conditions that won't compromise the testing. And records of cleaning a drying cabinet will demonstrate that a risk of contamination from a previously dried item has been mitigated. So all of these controls serve to protect the integrity of the items and promote trust in the organization's capabilities. So if you're responsible for property and evidence items and someone comes up to pick something up for court, or it's being returned to owner, you need to know that that item is under your control and where it can be located. For that, you need an accurate inventory. So the inventory can be maintained written or electronic, but the integrity of the system has to be maintained. Think about frequent backups of electronic systems. And if you're responsible for digital evidence, that inventory might look different, and the controls needed to ensure the integrity of that system might look different. But all items under the control of a property and evidence unit need to be unambiguously identified so that they can't be confused with another similar item. Think about like two cell phones that are the same make and model. And a chain of custody needs to be maintained for each item. The chain is that written or electronic record that covers an item from when it was received to when it leaves the unit's custodies and all points in between, including transfers in and from one area to another or in and out of the property room. And it provides the information needed for an accurate inventory. So how do you know if an inventory is accurate? Well, you have to verify it, you have to check it in order to know that. So is an item where your inventory says it is, you need to, go to your records, see where is XYZ supposed to be? Go to that shelf and see if it's there. On a different way of doing it are the items all on that are on a particular shelf, do their records reflect that that is the location of those items? But you need to check it. So a proper verification includes checking all facilities and storage locations under your control. So the frequency of the check and the sample size, how many items in a location are checked, may vary based on risk. For example, the inventory for areas where high value items are stored may be verified many times a year, where other locations are only verified once a year. And what happens if an item is not where the inventory says it is? This is one of the procedures we talked earlier. Property custodians need to know what to do in that situation, and they need to follow the procedure. And they need to create a record of the incident. So this is going to help in evaluating risk. So one misplaced item may not be a large concern, but if you're seeing that 5 or 10% of the items are misplaced or mislocated, management is going to want to take a closer look at that, look at the procedures, look at the process, determine what is going wrong. So we've talked about several elements that high-performing property and evidence control units share. We've discussed the importance of management to set goals and objectives that are clearly communicated and effectively implemented, the importance of having personnel that are competent to perform their duties, of having procedures that are clearly written and address day-to-day tasks, as well as how to address infrequent but anticipated situations, the importance of facilities that provide security for personnel and items, as well as maintaining and monitoring the environmental controls needed to protect integrity of items. And finally, we talked about the identification and storage of items in a manner to protect their integrity for forensic testing, court, and return to owner. So if a citizen or an officer comes to your window requesting an item, could it be located quickly? And if asking court, can you confidently say where and how it's been stored at all times while under your control? So how do you demonstrate to yourself, your agency, and the public that you have a high-performing unit? Well, you can do that through accreditation. So accreditation promotes confidence in the unit's competence to maintain the integrity of the items from receipt to disposal. During the accreditation process, independent and technically competent assessors perform an objective review of documents, records, personnel, and tasks against a set of requirements. Next slide. ANAB, that we've developed an accreditation requirements for the management and operation of property and evidence control units. This is AR 3181. The AR stands for accreditation requirements for the management and operation of property and evidence control units. We developed this with a team of subject matter experts that manage and work in property rooms across the U.S. and released it for public comment. So all the comments were received and were considered and used to improve the document. And all the areas we've talked about today are addressed in through these requirements, and more. And this is free on the website. You can download it at no cost. You don't need to be a member of any organization, so there's no commitment to download and review these requirements. So some of you may not be familiar with ANAB. ANAB stands for the ANSI National Accreditation Board. We're a non-governmental organization that provides accreditation services to public and private sector organizations in many industries, including agriculture, medicine, energy, and criminal justice. ANAB is the largest multidisciplinary accreditation body in the Western Hemisphere. We now have more than 3,000 organizations accredited in approximately 80 countries. So the Property and Evidence Control Unit accreditation is managed by the ANAB's Forensic Business Unit, but it's not just for forensic service providers. The accreditation is open to all public and private organizations that receive, store, transfer, and dispose of property and evidence items. This includes those organizations we talked about early on, those police agencies, sheriff's offices, jails, prosecutors, courts, medical examiners, and private companies. So the steps in becoming accredited. The first step, it really isn't even on this slide. The first step is to download the requirements and do a self-evaluation or audit of your own processes and procedures. I am confident that many people out there already have a lot of things in place. So you need to download that, see what you have in place, and what you might need to do additionally to that. Then contact us for a cost estimate, for a quote. And we're going to ask you questions about how big is your agency, how many facilities do you have, what's the size of your staff. So we're an on-site assessment could be one day, or it could be multiple days. It could consist of one assessor, or it could we could have multiple assessors. Then when you're ready, you can submit an application, and we, along with documents and records, and we'll do a document and record review. It's possible we could find some what we call gaps where we have requirements, but we're not seeing evidence that you are conforming with that requirement. So we may come back to you with questions. When those are resolved, and with your cooperation, we're going to set an accreditation assessment date. So we'll come on site, do our assessment. Again, we do interviews of personnel. We watch watch them do their tasks, and it's we look at more records and documents. If there are any gaps at that point, what we call nonconformances, you will have 60 days to do corrective actions. So you have an opportunity to correct any nonconformances against the requirements at that time. And then when those are resolved, we are able to do an accreditation decision where you can become accredited. This is a 2-year cycle. So in 2 years, we will come back on site and do all this again. In the off years, we do a document review. So we do have a surveillance activity that we do that's not on site, it's off site. You'll see that there's a web address down there. The web address, you don't necessarily have to remember all of that, but it's easy to remember anab.org. So if you go to anab.org, actually we'll go to the next slide, because you're going to find a lot of resources to help you as well. So the resources, this anab.org with property and evidence resources are going to provide the free accreditation requirements, along with the other informational documents that you need to get started. And with that, I think I will turn it back to Deanne.
Thank you, Jamie. Jamie will be here to answer your questions in a few minutes, but I do want to talk a little bit about the ANAB training as you are working towards accreditation, or if you're already accredited and you might want to take courses to work on your skills. I'm actually from the training unit, and so I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the benefits of the ANAB training. So specifically, I'd like to start with talking about our brand new course. It's called Understanding AR 3181, the accreditation requirements for management and operation of property and evidence control units. So we have developed this course to help you to understand and be able to implement the AR 3181 requirements within your property and evidence control unit. The course will be offered for the first time live and online in June. Again, it's going to be taught by a subject matter expert that understands both your business and the requirements of the ANAB AR 3181. So during this course, we will go through the entire AR 3181 document. Here are the table of contents. We talk about terms and definitions, what your general requirements are all the way through your processes and your management system requirements. It is a 2-day course that will leave you very familiar with what you would need to do to gain accreditation to AR 3181. You will have the opportunity to have hands-on and interactive discussions. We will have exercises, and you will, of course, also have the opportunity to speak to your live instructor. We also give many other types of training. We offer public offerings that are on our website, and again, down at the bottom at anab.ansi.org/training, or if you just remember anab.org, it will bring you to the front page, which is very easy to navigate. If you don't see exactly what you want, or if your organization would like a custom course or a private course, we can also do that. I gave some examples of what might be useful to property and evidence control units. We can give a custom course on internal auditing. We can give you a course on corrective action and cause analysis, and of course on risk-based thinking if this is new for you. And I know we have people from many different areas on here, so I want to talk to you a little bit about our general resources as well. These are available to all of our accredited laboratories or any laboratory seeking accreditation, any forensic service providers, and of course, our property and evidence control units. They are all, some of them are free and right on the website. So we have our webcasts, and again, just remember anab.org and you will be able to navigate through all of these links. Our webcasts, again, are pre-recorded videos providing additional information on accreditation and standards requirements. Our webinars, like the one we're having today, are free live informational sessions offered monthly on a variety of topics. Our next webinar, just so you know, will be in March, and it will be on method validation of modified standard methods. This is more for the laboratories and the forensic service providers, but it should be an interesting webinar. Our blog page has a wealth of information related to risk, accreditation, standard requirements, and a lot of other topics that you may have to make yourself familiar with as you go through the accreditation process. And of course, as I spoke before, we offer live online, in-person, and self-paced training on our and it's all on the website that you can see, including the general internal auditing, standards requirements, measurement confidence, risk analysis, corrective action. There are validation of methods. There are a large number of courses that we do offer. That is actually all that I want to talk about. So we do have a couple of questions. I'm going to ask Jamie to unmute herself again, and let's start. We've got a good half hour for questions if you have any. I do have one that came in early, Jamie, when you were talking about personnel. And the question is, how can we check performance and competence of the personnel in this topic? How do we check it in the property and evidence control units?
Right, that's a great question. Obviously, through ongoing monitoring of personnel, this is, you're going to have a good training program. You're going to have the training program that covers the KSAs they need to do the job. It's going to cover safety. It's going to cover how to handle property and evidence items, so those day-to-day things, and then refresher train. You want them to know about the legal requirements. So there's a lot of things that there could be training on in that matter. Once you've provided the training, then you want to make sure that they're competent to do the training. So this could be an observation-based an observation-based evaluation. So you're watching them do their tasks. You're watching them receive. Are they filling out the forms properly? You're looking at their records that they created. Are they putting the items in the storage or area that they're supposed to? Or so you're going to have procedures in place that are clearly written that tells them how to do something. So the evaluation, checking the competence and performance of those people, are going to be through the review of the records, the task records that they have created, as well as watching them do the tasks.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just looking to see if there are any other questions.
I see one on, could you provide more detail on verifying inventory?
Okay, that might have come to you personally. Great.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Okay. So yes, on the, and I think I see two of those. And
Okay.
so a couple people have the same questions. So yes, so you have an inventory is that complete listing of what you have in your possession. And so you want to verify that that is accurate. So there's a couple ways on how to do that. There is and we talked about, doing that verification where you're looking at the records and you're going to the location where the record says the item is and checking that location. Is the item where the record says it is? And then there's the opposite side. So you can verify go to a shelf, take a listing of what is on the shelf, and then go to your records and see if those are correct. So there's what I presented was the frequency and the size of the sample. We recognize that some property rooms out there could have 1 million items, right? So you could be a smaller agency may not have a lot of items, and you can't check 100% of the inventory that you have on hand. But others may be able to. So the sample size, how many items in each area is being checked, is going to be dependent on risk. And the requirements that we have in place, the AR 31 81 leaves that up, has flexibility in that you're able to decide that. I want to address one other thing with the inventory, with the verification of the inventory. We have a question on representative sample, and again, that is not what we don't say that it has to be a representative sample. The risk is up to you on how, and again, those high value items, you're going to want to do 100% verification of the high value items. But other items that are property items, you may not, you may accept the risk that you're not reviewing all those items. You do need to look at every location though. You want to make sure at least something that a sampling is done, and for those who are 17025 accredited, I don't mean a statistical sampling, but you need to look at the a portion of the items that are in that location, but all locations need to be looked at.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jamie. We do have some more questions coming in. Should there be competency tests yearly, maybe, or just have supervisors observe the personnel on a regular basis?
When for competency tests, I want to make sure that we're talking the same language, really, because competency, it could be different things to different people. So often we think of competency as being competent to do the job initially. So there's been a demonstration that an individual is able to perform a task independently. And so that would be, when I talk about competency tests, that's what I'm looking for. There is no requirement for a competence, for a proficiency test or a competency test, but we do expect that there is some monitoring of that person annually, so that it could be done during a performance review or during an internal audit, but you would want to observe that person. And of course, as a manager, you're going to know, is that enough? It's a risk to you if one annually is enough, or maybe you think that a particular person or more people, or maybe a task. I want to see everyone perform a particular task because it's a high risk to us. So this is where you're able to decide on your own based on risk what that looks like in your organization.
I have another question for you, Jamie. What are the qualifications of the assessors for property and evidence control assessments?
The assessors that would be performing the assessments are going to have experience in working in a property and evidence control unit. They're going to understand what the processes that are in place, the risks that are in place, and of course the requirements, the AR 3181 requirements that ANAB, because during an assessment, remember, we have these requirements that are mandatory. So our requirements are mandatory, so they all have to be met. So the comparison then is, we have a set of requirements. We need to see objective evidence on what is being done by the property and evidence control unit. So the assessor will be looking at the requirements, seeing, do we have objective evidence to support a finding of conforming to that requirement? So they need to know the requirements. They need to know your system. So they're going to do a lot of review on your own methods, your own tasks, your manuals, that type of thing. And then on site are going to do that comparison.
Jamie, I do not have any more questions in my Q&A. I don't know if you had any that people sent to you privately.
I don't see any more.
Okay. Well, I have 3 more now. Just came in. No,
Okay,
it's
good.
good. It's good. The AR does not require a statistical sample for the inventory. Is it based on the risk level that the institution assumes?
Yes. Yes. I think we
Okay.
answered that one.
Mm-hmm. And is there a third-party assessment mechanism or individual assessors of AR 3181 regulated or permitted by the ANAB for consultancy firms? Not sure I understand that.
I'm not sure I do either, but
Akram, could you rephrase that a little bit for us? And then this is similar to one I think you've already answered while Akram maybe gives us that question again. It's how do we evaluate the personnel training?
I think that's a good answer, a good question for you too. So um, not not necessarily for Deanne, but for our attendees, because how do you recognize whether a person has been trained adequately? So you're gonna, are they making mistakes, or do they understand what to do based on the training that you provided? So, accreditation and really all organizations are constantly improving. So it is good to reflect on what you've done and see if are improvements to be made. If you've got a training program and you're seeing people aren't meeting the expectations for their performance of their tasks, then you're going to want to evaluate what might need to be changed in that training program. So that's kind of where you would want to evaluate the training program from that aspect.
Okay. My addition to that would be that however you evaluate your personnel training, because there are so many different ways of doing it, just make sure you keep good records of it.
Yes.
So, again, back to this one question we haven't answered yet about the third-party assessment mechanism or our individual assessors to AR 3181 being regulated. I'm still not sure exactly what that question means, but is it permitted to be done by consultancy firms?
I think I can probably take a good stab at this one. So,
Right.
ANAB is an accredited organization, or is recognized accrediting body. And we have our own processes in place. And one of the processes that we have in place is to evaluate our assessors. So we have evaluated those assessors that will go on site for all our accreditations. So we would definitely evaluate their performance, and we have to accept them to in order to allow them to go out. So there's training, there's evaluation of on-site assessment activities that ANAB does for all our assessors for all our accreditations. So we wouldn't necessarily allow a consultant or who is not trained to by us to do those accreditations to any of our in any of our programs.
Yes. I cannot unmute anyone in this webinar, but Jamie Ekram is asking if he can ask in person after the webinar. Okay. He said, okay, Ekram is the cyber forensics analyst, and can he be an assessor to AR 3181? Again, there's an application for assessors, and we can talk to you about that offline. I've written down his name and we have his email address. Okay, Jamie?
Perfect.
All
Yes.
right, Ekram, I hope that'll help. All right, are there any other questions for Jamie? Or any questions about training? Anything else that you want to talk about before we?
Yeah, let me add one other thing. If you do come up
Sure.
with questions afterwards, on our website, you will find a page for Property and Evidence Control Unit accreditation. And if you scroll down, you'll see a talk to an expert. And so that allows you just to click on Jan's Gerton's picture, and it'll be popped up. You'll see an email, and you can easily send a question through through that page as well.
Also, if you are interested in training, you of course you can go up onto the website. But if you are interested in any of our training programs or private training, anything, you can send an email to training@anab.org. And any additional information in general on accreditation services, you can come to ANAB at anab.org, and the proper business unit will receive your email. All right, I want to make one more check. Okay. Could you please share with us an accreditation audit report?
I don't think that we have mock reports that
No.
are available. I apologize for that.
No, but if you want information on how the accreditation looks, the public accreditation, they're all available under who is accredited on our website, and you can take a look at the accreditation certificates and scopes.
That's a
But the
great point.
audit
Thank you.
reports,
Yep.
yeah, I don't have one either. All right. I hope, and again, if that doesn't answer your question completely, please come back and go ahead and ask our expert. She may be able to give you some more information, from the website, or you can, again, send it to anab@anab.org. Is there a scope document that is issued for this accreditation?
There is a scope document that is issued, and as part of the application process, that would be, we would ask you again, what are you seeking accreditation in? So there are some tasks that are not optional, and there are some tasks that are optional, and some items that are optional. Do you handle these items or not? So yes, and you can find that draft scope document on the website as well.
Okay. Well, I believe we've answered all the questions, unless you have any others that, oh, wait a minute. This is good. This is a thank you. Glad to see you on screen again. Of course, Jamie, before she became an accreditation manager, was a very active instructor for us. Thank you, Jamie. This topic is very interesting because my team just tasked to audit in this area. I'll mention this to Anne to relay to the leadership from Jenny Tsang. Jamie.
Oh,
So I
thanks,
wanted to
Jenny.
make sure that you received your thank you. I want to thank you very much, Jamie, for taking the time to put this together and to spend time with us. This is a wonderful new topic for the training program, and we're very, very happy that you did this with us. Again, everyone, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. I hope that you received the answer to some of your questions. And again, if you have any other information that you need, please contact us either on the website or from these two email addresses. So thank you very much. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone out there.